98.1 FM, where freedom rocks your boat.
Okay, and we just got the go-ahead sign to begin the race. So I'm just going to turn it over to Leah and let her get to her story.
Okay. Now, what I'm sure everybody doesn't know, that a ticket is an offer to contract. I rescinded their offer. And in commercial law, in contract law, you have 3 days to rescind an offer of the contract. Or it stands as fact, stands valid. Your silence, you're acquiescing. It's by silence and not rebutting anything that's on the ticket makes it stand as fact. I don't know if everybody knows that. So the way you do rescind a ticket, there's a way you can sign it. And I signed mine, of course, under protest, duress, and that better be noted. I signed it, no contract, without prejudice, UCC 1-308. You can Google that. That basically means my signature is not there. And any terms and conditions in that contract I cannot be held liable for. And you are supposed to return it within 3 business days. So this was a Friday afternoon, so court windows closed Saturday and Sunday. I was down there Monday morning attempting to give back their ticket, and I had written on it, no contract, refused for cause, UCC 1-305, no contract without prejudice, under protest and duress, UCC 1-308, and then not really a signature there, okay? And I told them I rescinded their offer to void out the ticket. Well, they wouldn't take it. They would not take the ticket. They would not talk to me. They sent one of the judges out to basically strong-arm me and teach me about the law. And then they sent...
Who was the judge? Do you recall? I said I wasn't going to interrupt you.
It's not Sullivan. It's the other guy. It's...
I don't know. Okay, we can go back to it when you remember.
Okay. It was the one that was just kicked off the Rick Marshall case, the daughter-in-law.
I haven't been following it. So.
Okay. Anyway. So when he got done teaching, thinking he was teaching me about the law, I just said, "Are you finished?" And I walked off. So I walked to the DA's office, and I said, "Hey, I'm trying to rescind this offer to contract, and nobody will even take the ticket. And the clerk won't talk to me. She won't take it." And I had an affidavit and everything, and then a page that they would sign saying that they received it. Refused to sign. I said, okay. So I just left, went to the post office after I took, of course, photocopies of the ticket and my rebuttals. And I sent it, overnight, certified return receipt. So they got it within 3 business days. And by law, they should have voided it out. Well, they ignored that. Okay? So last week of January, I get an envelope in the mail from Pahrump Justice Court. I did not open it. I have a stamp that says return to sender, no contract. I am the non-14th Amendment citizen. My ultimate authority is the Most High. I had some Nevada statutes quoted in there about contract law. And also, it was all rights reserved without prejudice, UCC 1-308, and it had some other UCC codes in there quoted. And I stamped it with that, stamped it twice with refuse for cause, because they haven't shown any nature or cause or anything about why I'm being charged. So, and I put that envelope in a United States Postal Service envelope, and I returned it again. Certified return receipt, okay? I've rescinded your offer twice. And then I followed that up with a letter saying, regarding ticket number blah, 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 upon proof of claim that you can claim that I am the, all capital straw man, blah, 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 that you have jurisdiction over, blah, 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 in several points. If you can rebut these, I'll come down there and plead guilty. This will all be over in a New York minute. Okay? You have 7 days to respond upon receipt of this letter, or I will deem this matter concluded, over with, done. El finito.
It is always important to give a time to respond.
Yeah, they had 7 days from a time receipt.
Got it.
Nothing. Nothing.
So they,
And it was signed by, I believe, Ann Malone, I think is her name. I have all my receipts here.
So by their failure to respond, is it your position
Yeah.
that
Okay.
the issue is over?
The court has now defaulted 3 times on
Right.
notices. And by law, they have to respond. They have to. Because if they send you a notice, you have to respond or you're held liable. Correct?
Right.
Okay. So the court's defaulted 3 times. Okay. Let's cut to March 18th, this Saturday. I had just gone out to lunch with a couple of very nice ladies here in our community. It was the day before my birthday, so we went out and, had a nice lunch. I got home about 1:45, went to check on Mom, and I come back out, and the wooden door was slightly ajar, and I could see outside. I heard my dogs barking. There's 2 Nye County Sheriff's deputies cars parked out there on the side of the road. I've got 2 what appear to be Nye County Sheriff's deputies walking up my driveway. I don't know why they're there. I can't imagine why they're there, And so I called our sheriff to see if she could tell me if she knew any reason why these deputies would be at my house. I wasn't expecting them. Plus, they just trespassed. They passed some very strong worded no trespassing signs, and just ignored them, walked on in. Also, one of them walked in the second gate with my 2 dogs, which I thought was very brazen on his part, because my dogs are there to protect me. And come to find out later, a neighbor called me that was over on the street just towards the east of me, said that the other, what appeared to be an officer, was at the side of my house with his hand on his gun. So that told me that if there would have been any trouble with the dogs, they probably would just killed them, without any reason other than the fact that they trespassed on my private property. So anyway, I closed the wooden door, and luckily my security door was locked, and all of a sudden, bang, 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 bang. I open the door. He does not say Nye County, Sheriff's Office.
No, I want to clarify something.
Mm-hmm.
The door that you opened,
Mm-hmm.
is that the only door that
There's 2 doors. I had a metal door that was locked, security door, but it's a screen you can see through.
So you
then I have a wooden door that's
so you
behind
opened up
that.
the interior door.
Yeah, the interior
Okay,
door. The
okay.
exterior door remained locked.
Okay.
Good. And there's what appears to be a Nye County Sheriff's deputy there. He just said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you." And I said, "Well, I don't want any contact, and I don't want to talk to you." And he's like, "Well, why not?" I says, "I don't know who you are." I said, "Who are you?" He goes, "I'm Deputy Murphy." I says, "Can I see some ID?" And he said, "No." He says, I'm just here to talk to you." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want any contact with you." He goes, "Well, why not?" I says, "Because I do not trust you." He says, "Well, I'm just here to ask you some questions." I go right there. I says, "I do not answer questions. I do not answer questions, and I don't want to." Well, hey. And he started escalating. His voice starts getting higher. Then he starts calling me by my first name, my given name, And I'm like, "I have not ID'd myself." He goes, "Well, my partner has." I says, "I haven't seen your partner, and I can't see him." "Oh, yes, you can." "Oh, yes, you saw him when we were walking up." I says, "I can't see his face, and I can't see him now." He goes, "Well, he gave a positive ID." I says, "Well, who is he?" Wouldn't answer me. And he never said anything. The second guy, like I say, I was told earlier he was at the corner of my house with his gun in his hand. So again, he wants to talk to me. I refuse. So I shut the door, and I come back in, and I'm like, finally, my brain kicked in. Record this. Grabbed my phone, went back, turned the video button on, and I opened the door, and I said, "Okay, I don't know why they're here." And I could kind of see Murphy. He had moved, and he was off to my left where I could just kind of see half his body. And I heard him on the radio, and I kept saying, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" He would not tell me. And I asked him for ID again. He would not give me ID. And finally, I heard over the dispatch radio, came back with my name, my address, and wanted for a misdemeanor traffic warrant. And I'm going, here we go. We're off to the races, okay? He comes back, and I said, "Well, I need to see a warrant. You say you're here on a warrant now? I need to see it." And he wouldn't show it to me. He goes, "Well, we just need to talk about this." I said, "No." I said, you need to show me a warrant. And I said, if you have a warrant with my name on it, signed by an Article 3 judge with a supporting affidavit, tell me, who I've harmed, who the witnesses are. I says, I'll go right now. I says, we can go. I don't have a problem with it. He says, well, hold on a minute. This is after telling me he has a warrant. He can't produce one. So I heard him get back on the radio and called dispatch and asked if he had permission to breach. And I'm like, whoa, he's going to come back with some, metal and rip my door off the hinges. So in the meantime, I stepped back and I called the sheriff. Again, still no answer, so I text. I said, call me, please. It says, 2 of your deputies here, won't identify, whatever. Right about that minute, the phone rang. And that's when the video on my camera died, because you can't video and take a call at the same time, right? But the other deputy assured me that his video camera was on, which is great, because it will have him refusing to give ID and refusing to show a warrant, Now, there may be some debate about if they have to, show you an arrest warrant in the state. I don't know. But all I do know is if you demand to see it, they have to show it to you. Okay? And plus, you have to identify yourself. And you need to give me 3 forms of ID or you're out of uniform. And also, any misdeeds that an officer commits while serving a warrant, he can be personally held liable. Personally held liable.
Interesting.
Yes. Most people don't know that. Most people do not know that.
Most people would be afraid to know
as far
that.
as I'm concerned now, I'm going to get kidnapped because he won't show me ID. I can't prove he's an officer, and he won't show me a warrant of why he's there. So now my adrenaline's racing. I may seem calm on the tape, the video, but the heart's pounding.
Right.
And I'm scared. I'm scared to death. Plus, I got my 86-year-old mother in the next room who I don't want to get upset. Because she's very frail. So anyway, Sharon got on the phone, and she says, "What's going on?"
This is the sheriff.
Sheriff Worley. She says, "What's going on?" I said, Sharon, I says, these 2 deputies are here, and I says, I think they're deputies. I says, they won't show me any ID. They say they have a warrant. They cannot produce one. She goes, well, who's there? I says, the only one that's told me a name is Murphy. She goes, let me talk to Murphy. I said, okay. And I said, Murphy, your boss wants to talk to you. And he goes, okay. So, and here's where I'm starting to regret. I opened up, disengaged the lock on the exterior door, the metal door, security door. Open it up just barely enough to put my hand through and hand him the phone. At that point, he grabbed my right wrist, yanked me out of my home, spun me around. I heard a pop in my right shoulder. Put that arm behind me. My phone dropped to the ground. He got my other arm and put me in handcuffs. And I didn't resist, but the whole time I was screaming, Sharon, he's hurting me. My arm, please, let go. I'm not resisting. I did not resist. And that will be seen on the other, deputy's camera if they don't erase it. So, anyway, he picked up the phone, talked to her for a little bit, and then said, okay. He held the phone back up to my ear, and Sheriff Worley says, well, unfortunately, the warrant's not out of my agency, so I know about it. There's nothing I can do. You're going to need to go with them, and if you can post bond or call a lawyer. And she asked me to ask Mr. Murphy how much the bond was, and it was $1,495 cash only. Cash is all they'll take. And luckily, I had some men doing some work at my house, and I just happened to have that amount on hand. So he allowed me to go in and get the money, because that's the only reason they were there, and to bind me over to court, because they got to get that straw man. So anyway, he allowed me to do that, and here we go down to get into what appeared to be Nye County Sheriff's vehicle, because remember, it is a commercial car. It's a vehicle. And right when he put me in the back seat and he got in, and I said, look, I really need to see that warrant right now, because I'm freaking out. I'm being kidnapped here. I really need to see the warrant signed by an Article 3 judge with a supporting affidavit. I don't have it. Really? When can I see it? He goes, after we get you bonded and we'll give it to you before you're released. Really? That's just wrong on every level. It really is. So we get down there and walk in the back, and he goes and he tells the sergeant and says the boss wants this one booked and released immediately. And sergeant goes, why? He goes, I'll tell you later. So whatever he told him, I don't know. But, it took about an hour down there, and they took my money, of course, and they thought they made me sign an appearance to appear in court, but I didn't sign it. My signature is not on it. I filled up the signature line, but it doesn't have my signature on it. I wrote, under protest and duress, all rights reserved, without prejudice, which means it never can be brought up again, UCC 1-308, which basically means my signature is not there, and I cannot be held liable or accountable for any of the conditions in the contract. And I didn't write a signature. There's nothing. No scribbles, no nothing. So, I think that's going to frustrate them a bit.
My experience has always been that people don't really read what they're given. They make assumptions that it's handled the way they want it handled.
Oh, if you read all the conditions and stuff that they put on there, and the guy's reading them to me, and I'm like, and you must submit to this, that, and the other. I'm like, I don't submit to anything. He goes, well, nobody's really looking. I says, well, just on the record, I don't submit. I don't consent, I don't submit, I don't consent, I don't submit, ever. And you can't make me. So basically, that's what happened.
So where are you now with this?
Well, it took a while. After the adrenaline, wore off from the day, I kind of got really sick for a couple days,
Over
just
the
sick to my stomach, and stress. And then I went to the emergency room Monday morning, and I found out that, courtesy of Deputy Murphy, if that is his name, that I have a torn rotator cuff and soft tissue damage. So I'm dealing with that right now.
How tall are you?
5'5".
And how tall was the deputy?
About 6.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's pretty intimidating, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you stood your ground.
I stood my ground.
You thought.
Yeah, I fought with my words. I never use violence. And that's where they want you to go. They just hope you take a swing at them. They just hope you do. Because then they can, just go. Can I say BALLS?
I don't see why not.
Okay. They just go balls out.
Just don't spell it.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that's what happened.
Well, I don't know what was going on in the minds of those deputies, but I damn sure would be interested to know.
Yeah. Because I was talking to somebody who's kind of a legal expert. There's a big difference between legal and lawful. Legal's their land. I live in the land of lawful, common law. Legal is not law. If it was law, they wouldn't call it legal. They'd call it law.
You think we have too many laws these days?
We have too many statutes.
Too many statutes.
That don't apply to us, and they can't prove that they do. But they force us. They force it on us. That's why it's called enforcement, okay?
Are you thinking that you're going to go to court one day?
We'll see. I'm still going to try to handle it administratively, but a little bit more forcefully.
How would that
and
be?
I am definitely considering going after the 2 officers personally, because what they did once they did not identify themselves, after they refused to identify themselves and refused to show me a valid warrant, and the warrant I have is not valid. I've already looked at it. It's not signed by an Article 3 judge. In fact, the judge that signed it's not even bonded. So, there's some big problems there. So there's all different kinds of angles I can handle this. I don't want to announce on the air what exactly I'm going to do, but I will tell you this: those 2 officers are they really stepped in it that day. And when you want to identify yourself or show a valid warrant when being asked, after that you have criminal intent. Criminal intent comes into play.
I'm curious about the warrant. I've never actually seen a warrant. Mm-hmm. Although I have had the fire department in Chino Hills come to my house
Mm-hmm.
and want to inspect my backyard.
They can't do it without your
At-
consent.
At which point I said, "Do you have a warrant?" And they said, "No."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, thank you for coming here.
Yeah,
Have a nice day."
that's all you do.
20 minutes later, the helicopter from Pomona flew over my house.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to have a warrant for that.
Not for that, no.
Right.
But at least they didn't breach your
But
property and
I've
start,
always thought, I hear so much about warrants these days, and one of the things that I had asked about in the past is how they actually validate the warrant when it comes to the date.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm told that they have the date, but they don't have the time.
I'll
And
have
it
to look
seems
at
to
that.
me warrants need to be time-stamped as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they appear to you and say there's a warrant, there better be a regular machine stamp on that warrant somewhere.
You got a point. You got a point.
And I've heard that they don't timestamp these warrants.
Yeah. Well, there's a big problem with the warrants that they served out. They're not valid because they don't. For a warrant to be valid, it has to be signed by an Article III judge.
You know, I always looked at law people in police departments and sheriff's department as representing my interests as a law-abiding
Yeah.
citizen.
Yeah.
But hearing you today makes me wonder, what does a law-abiding citizen really mean?
Yeah.
How do we know when we're law-abiding and when we're not?
Well, you should change that to statute abiding. Common law is very simple. You cause no harm, you do no damage, and you're never fraudulent in your contracts. If you can remember those three things, you're good.
Well, isn't there...
Then lawyers had to show up, from the the bar, the British Accreditation Registry. They're foreign agents, and then they had to go write a bunch of statutes and say that they apply to us when they don't, and they can't prove that they do. They only do by consent.
I look at the time, every time the legislature meets,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically run by lawyers and people with college degrees.
Yeah.
They're meeting to figure out how they're going to have ways and means to extract more money from the public.
That's all. Just remember what I said in the beginning of this program. All law is commercial. Everything they do is about how can we make more money for the corporation, which I don't work for, and I'm not a child of the state anymore. And anytime you get a lawyer and you walk into court, you're deemed an imbecile. You're not mature enough to handle your own affairs.
Here's your sign.
Yeah. You essentially become a ward of the court when you become represented, How can anybody represent me when I am me?
I've been told, you mentioned the British accredited, et cetera.
The British Accreditation Registry, yeah. All lawyers, or bar attorneys, are foreign agents. And they took an oath. Their allegiance is to the crown. Think about that.
No, I've heard conversation that when you go to court and you're standing outside the swinging doors into the courtroom where the judge is,
Yeah.
where they have the two tables
Mm-hmm.
where the defendant and plaintiff sit,
Mm-hmm.
that until you pass through those swinging doors,
The bar.
the
Mhm.
bar, yeah,
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
going to get to that.
Yeah.
When you pass through that bar, it's the barrier between being in that court and not being in court.
Yeah. Yeah.
You may be in the courtroom,
Absolutely.
but you're not at court.
Yeah, these what they call justice courts I operate under admiralty law, but they won't tell you that. There's another fraud there. They say it's statutory law. They changed it from admiralty to statutory, just to confuse and plus the public wouldn't go for admiralty law on the land. So
You brought up admiralty law, which is probably a whole show right there.
yeah.
But
Well, it is statutory law, admiralty law. These are military tribunals that we have. They're not common law courts. There are no common law courts in America. That needs to change.
I think when you bring up Admiralty, I'm going to go back to when I turned 40.
Mm-hmm.
And
That was, what, 5 years ago?
yes, I'm just mentally it was 5 years ago. And I ran into a fella named Marvin Roby. And it was very accidental. I was looking, I never read the legal section of the newspaper, right? But this one particular day, I'm reading the Chino Champion, and at the top of one of the pages, the first item was a change of quiet title. Well, as a real estate broker, I'm interested. Where is this happening? You don't see this very often.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the darn thing 3 times, and I couldn't figure out where the property was. Then it dawned on me. He was changing title to his persona, to himself.
Yeah.
So I went down to the newspaper. I thought, gee, I've got to meet this guy. This has got to be interesting. And they wouldn't give me his phone number.
Mm-hmm.
But they did tell me he was in the phone book.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And I had a 4-hour sit down with him in a restaurant to talk about this whole issue,
Mm-hmm.
which is when I got a better understanding at that time of the things you talk about. And I have to tell you, it takes a lot of mental gymnastics
Mm-hmm.
for the general public to even grasp what you're talking about, even
Yeah.
with an explanation,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to go back into history
Yeah.
to see how all of this has developed.
Right.
So you're talking about things that have been generated since the beginning of the country.
Mm-hmm. We've had no real justice courts in America since, I believe, 1932 or 33.
And what's the reason for that?
Well, we can start with Congress. So that's a whole nother story. We'll do that another day.
So now you've mentioned who these deputies are during the show.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, let me also add it turned out the other deputy that was with Mr. Murphy
uh-huh.
was the one that gave me the 5-mile-an-hour speeding ticket. I think he was a little upset because
So let me get this clear. The deputy that was harassing you, I'll use that term, is not the deputy that issued the ticket.
No.
So he was
the other
operating on
deputy
hearsay.
Teeter who issued the ticket. Deputy Teeter, his ID number is 002953. He's the one that issued the original ticket. Come to find out, he was the one that was hiding around the corner of my house with his hand on his pistola in case, I guess, my dogs got out of hand, or if I got out of hand. I don't know. I'm just making assumptions.
Have you ever been violent?
No. I'm not a violent person at all.
Did you do anything
I feel you can change the world with your words, but you can do nothing with violence. You can accomplish nothing other than, hurt feelings and injuries. That's all.
When you had talked with the sheriff, did you ask if this is standard procedure in the sheriff's department to have one deputy on the side and another one at the door?
No, that hasn't been brought up yet. But I think I kind of, I think Teeter has a little personal vendetta now because as, remember we're in commercial, operating in commerce, or they are, all right? I sent him a bill because he interfered with my unalienable right to travel, and then he handed me a ticket under the pretense that a crime had been committed. So I sent him a letter, and it's all notarized and everything, and I sent him a bill and I told him I would waive my fee schedule and just bill him for the breach of peace and trying to convert my right to travel into whatever. Anyway, I sent him a bill for $10,000, and he's defaulted on that. And if he doesn't pay it, he's going to get a lien placed on him.
If anyone would like to have more information, you can contact me at 727-8771 or at my email, andy@cpahrump.com, or you can attend the men's breakfast Thursday morning at 7:30 at the Senior Center. Leah, thank you very much for being on.
Okay.
I'd like to have you back again when more develops on the story.
It's been my pleasure, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening, and have a great week.
The opinions, views, and conclusions expressed in this show are those of the show host and co-host and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of KPFV FM or its affiliates.
Stay informed on what's happening now,
where it always feels good.
Right here on 98.1 FM.